We have been taught how to build careers, lead teams, and solve complex problems, but no one ever really taught us how to experience a deep, fulfilling love. And what I see over and over again, especially with the high achieving women that I work with, is that you can be incredibly successful on the outside and still feel disconnected, unfulfilled, and even confused about why relationships are not working the way that you thought they would. So today we're going to have a very different kind of conversation. We're going beyond the surface level advice and cute little card sentences and phrases that just give us those platitudes about relationships. And we're going to get into the real dynamics that shape connection, intimacy, and what it actually means to experience love on a deeper level in your current relationship or in a next relationship. Today, I'm joined by Joanna Shakti, known as the True Love Mentor. I just love that. And the founder of Ecstatic Intimacy. She brings a unique blend of masculine and feminine dynamics, leadership, spirituality, and real world experience to help people create not just relationships, but truly meaningful connections. So, Joanna, welcome.
Thank you. It's so good to be here with you.
And it's so good to be here with you. And just full disclosure, Joanna and I did a podcast episode for my podcast, The D Shift. And I just found her insight really different than sort of the typical get to love yourself a little bit more. Here's 5 quick tips and techniques, and there you go, you're fixed. So I really appreciated your message. Joanna, tell us a little bit about you and why this is your area of focus now.
Mm. The really short story is I grew up in the heart of the women's movement in the 70s. We were the one of the first divorced families on the block. I learned a lot of really crappy stories about men and relationships and love. I took it all personally and thought my parents' divorce was about me. So then self-love and self-relationship played on top of my projections on men. And then in 2001, so all of that history, 2001, I get introduced to the ideas of masculine and feminine energy. Of course, I knew the words, but at this point, because I never wanted to depend on a man,
Mm-hmm.
I was now an electrical engineer with an MBA climbing the corporate ladder in Houston, Texas, good old boy network in the 90s.
Yeah.
I was proud of outmanning the men. I was divorced. I was exhausted. I was resentful. And I wondered what was wrong with the men until I started on my own journey, and these two words, masculine and feminine, came to me. And when I looked at what they truly meant in my life, I would have told you I was absolutely masculine. I wasn't. I was corely feminine, and I didn't like her. Stuffed her in the back of the closet, down deep, tried to forget about her. And while she wasn't fighting her way out, I realized how true she was to me and how much she had impacted why I was divorced, why I couldn't have an orgasm, why I was successful and resentful all at the same time, and
Mm-hmm.
many other things. But I'll keep the story at that level of depth right now. And it was when I had the wake up call to true masculine feminine dynamics and how they interplay from the boardroom to the bedroom and everywhere in between. I made a commitment to leave corporate and to serve the women like me, strong, independent, powerful, successful, finding what was really true for themselves, and also to serve the men that we love.
Right.
And since then, it's been to be able to serve anyone, anywhere on the gender spectrums. But that was my awakening.
Yeah, and so this is when we first had our conversation, this just really struck me because I also worked in, and we talked about this more on the podcast, but I don't want to go into my story, but I worked in my very first job. Well, my very first job was in a department store, so that was mostly women. Um, but I was never the girly girl. I was always my dad's helper. Like we had a
Yep.
farm, if we did things, it was always like I was kind of like his son, but nothing he did overtly. Like it wasn't like I was forced to do that. That's just the role I took on. And then I went and worked in a packing plant, and there was myself and two other women, and they were the secretaries for the plant managers, and I was working like out in the livestock area. And it seemed like the more I went into careers, when I went into my teaching career, mostly women, and I didn't I didn't feel like that was where I was supposed to be. Like it didn't feel like I was being strong enough for some reason. So I totally get this
Oh,
idea of who are you, and are you trying to outdo the dudes in your workplace?
yes. Oh, I love that line. Outdo the dudes. Yes. And this interesting, I love that you brought in the idea of strong because we get really confused as a society of what strong means and where that strength comes from and how it gets expressed. And some of us, it's more of an inner strength, and some of it's a more outward physical strength. And that can ebb and flow at different times. But can we be, for example, strong and soft simultaneously? Can we be strong and receptive
Yeah.
simultaneously? And what does that look like? What is true strength? Because in this work, we argue, and I say argue because some people have some resistance to it, but that vulnerability is actually one of our greatest strengths.
Mm-hmm.
But how much as a society are we taught
Right.
to run from vulnerability or emotionality,
Right.
which is the language of intimacy, and why so many couples struggle
Yeah.
today
Well,
because of this resistance.
and I was going to say, that is so true because I remember, and I hear this all the time. Don't rely on another person to make you complete. Like I hear this all the time. So, from a lot of my clients, they were brought up that you shouldn't, you should be strong. You should be able to do everything on your own as a woman. And then I hear men who also are brought up that you're supposed to be the leader of the family. You're supposed to be the person in charge. And through society, through certain religions, through all of this kind of stuff, these stereotypes are, the man is the head of the household, the woman is submissive to the man, like all of these kind of things. And we get all these messages, and you're right, it can be really confusing. I think it's getting better, don't you, though? Like, I think there's less of that, maybe.
It's interesting. I think it's getting better, and I think but at the same time, some of our experiences are worse. And here's what, like, it was, go back to, I love to reference like Beaver Cleaver in the
Right,
50s for anybody that's old enough to remember that. But it was the role-based relationships.
right,
Because it was a female body, you did this. Because it was a male body, you did this. And then there's masculine, feminine energies that are within our bodies on those two ends of the gender spectrums, but there's blends. And it is, what's the authentic, energetic expression of my being? And where for me, I took on a lot of masculine, controlling, dominating energy, but it was reactionary to a lot of the trauma that I'd experienced, a lot of the life experiences that I'd had young. So it became a facade that I thought was authentic.
mm, yeah,
And then there were a lot of men who really got conditioned that they were supposed to be softer and more fluid and more um, yielding. And yet they gave up part of themselves trying to be the good man, be the good guy.
right,
And so then we ended up with the nice guy syndrome,
yeah,
which isn't, for most of those people, that is not authentic. They've done it because they thought that's what would get them love and respect.
right,
So this is the problem. It's not about the role-based relationships. Just because you have this form of body, you do this. No, it's the journey back to beyond, taking off the veils, uncovering all the strategies that we took on, trying to be good people,
yeah,
that we find out who we are. because while I am strong and I can totally make decisions and lead in my romantic relationship, that's not really what I want to do. I
Right.
want to be asked out, picked up, taken to dinner.
Yeah.
I want to be up against the wall in that hot, steamy kiss. Yes, is it fun to switch that up once in a while? But if I had to be the one facing the wall all the time, I would not be turned on.
Right. Right.
So it's authenticity.
So I love that. And let's go back a step because let's talk about and I don't know enough to talk about it. So I'm going to be learning from you here. Let's talk about this idea of masculine and feminine energy. What does that mean for a person
Yes.
who's sitting here listening going, "Well, I don't know. I don't because I get the role thing, but I don't get the
Yep.
energy thing."
Yes. Okay. Beautiful. I love that you asked that, Marty. So really, masculine feminine has its origins in ancient traditions, but the most well-known ancient tradition is the Taoist or traditional Chinese medicine yin yang symbol. Yin is feminine, yang is masculine, and yin or feminine energy is the expressive, creative, flowing, yielding, receptive, sensual, um, vulnerable energy. It's a very felt sense, it's a very experiential aspect. We all have that within us. Many of us have a certain percentage, often women, but not always, have that as a more predominant energy. In contrast, yang or masculine energy is the directed, assertive. The yang energy comes off the body. It's result oriented, it's goal oriented, it's on the rigid side of the spectrum, it's on the more stoic side of the spectrum. It is the competitive energy versus the collaborative energy. So, what we see with these is that they contrast.
Sure. Right.
And that, again, we all have both energies. I know we don't have a ton of time, but I'll name that within that yin yang symbol, the yin side is traditionally the black side, the yang side is traditionally the white side. But what we often don't notice about that symbol is the fact that there's a fully enclosed white circle in the black side, there's fully enclosed yang within the yin, and there's fully enclosed yin within the yang. And that's an important part to understand, is that the yang is not its fullest expression without the yin at the center. The
Mm,
yin isn't its fullest expression without the yang at the center. So this goes back to the strength. That more solid, erect energy is within the yin. But then there is this expressive, creative, flowing energy. Neither one is more powerful than the other. They both have power in unique ways, but
right.
it is discovering for ourselves which energy is predominant for me. Or there's a small percentage of the population that truly has an equal blend. Society has tried to tell us that we should all be equal and have equal masculine and equal feminine. But what that does is neuter and neutralize who we truly are, if that's not our authentic expression.
Right. Right.
So those are the definitions, if you will. There's many more words that we could bring into it, but
Sure.
that gives us the heart of it. And then that it's our opportunity to discover what's our authentic relationship, not our conditioned relationship
Right.
to those
Right.
two energies.
So this is really fascinating, and I so appreciate that they're in balance, that they both have to have part of like that little. I always thought when I was a kid, I always thought they were two fish, and those were the fish eyes for some reason.
Oh,
When
I
you're a
love
kid,
that.
you just kind
Yeah.
of get those thoughts in your head.
Yeah.
So so I love this idea that there's this blend. Let's say I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, well, okay, I let's just not say I what if. Let's say I am because I definitely am. How do I know? Like how do I peel back whatever that conditioning is to know to know what is
Yeah,
my energy? Like what are
yeah,
some maybe little signals or signs I could be
yeah.
looking for?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So I have a longer set of questions for the people that
Sure.
are in our programs, but there's four questions that give us some good indicators. So I'm going to give the four questions for you and for everybody listening. And then to say that even when we start to get that awareness of like, oh wait, there's a feminine woman that I stuffed down in the corner, now rebuilding the relationship, I call it closing the gap. And we have to go through this is how I've been showing up, but this is who I really am and what needs to happen to close that gap. And that's part of what we do in our deeper work because we don't just wake up to, oh, that's my authentic energy and now I'm going to live that way.
Right.
Excuse my language, but hell no.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I completely get that. And but I think it's interesting for people to maybe start realizing
Yes.
that there's some
Yes.
disconnect
Yep.
that might be experienced in their life.
Yep. So let's give the four questions. And the four questions I want to say before, they're super easy, so you'll remember your answers. But I want to say that I want to invite everybody to answer these questions from the place where you are totally safe, totally respected. There's complete consent. Everything's idyllic. You can't be judged. You can't be abandoned. You can't be rejected. So it's answering from that really, really safe space. Okay. So the four questions are, if you picked your ideal lover, are they physically larger than you, physically smaller than you, or exactly the same size?
Okay.
And you don't have to answer. Just
Yeah, I'm not
you
going
can
to.
later if you want. But I'll ask the four questions.
Okay.
Then the next one is similar, but it plays to this idea of strength. Is your ideal lover stronger than you, i.e., they move you across the bed, or are you stronger? You move them across the bed, or are you both moving each other at in equal measure?
Okay.
Third one is, and it's always fun to reverse this once in a while, but more times than not, do you want to be the one being asked out, picked up, and taken to dinner? Or do you want to be the one knowing the date's going to be amazing?
Right.
You don't have to worry about it failing. Do you want to be the one asking out, picking up, and taking to dinner? And then the last one is I mentioned the hot, steamy kiss up against the wall. Again, it's fun to switch spots every once in a while, but more times than not, in that hot, steamy, consensual kiss, are you against the wall being kissed, or are you facing the wall giving the kiss?
Okay.
They translate to those who um, prefer a lover who is physically larger, physically stronger, who asks out, picks up, and takes to dinner, who faces the wall. Those who are attracted to that's going to be feminine energy.
Okay.
And then those who would be the larger, who would be the stronger, who would face the wall, who would do the asking out, that's going to be the masculine end of the spectrum.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And some people answering these questions will find that they have a little bit of a blend of both. And that can sometimes be because of still conditioning. And sometimes it's because they truly are an equal blend of both.
Right. Right.
So
That's so interesting. And I think this is honestly, this is such a positive way to look at this whole idea rather than saying, um, oh, that's too feminine or that's too masculine or it's so, just like you say, no judgment. This is just preferences. This is just how you feel that this works for you. Yeah.
yeah, you're our constitution.
Yeah.
And we have so much shaming of the masculine. We have so much shaming of the feminine. And it's why this conversation is actually difficult. But when we get to be who we are, we come alive.
Right.
And we can then, well, that's when we're most attractive. And we can sustain the connection and we can name our needs and we can name our desires because predominantly masculine beings and predominantly feminine beings approach sex differently. They approach upsets differently. What ends an upset is different. They communicate differently. And so to begin to appreciate that in ourselves and in our partners, rather than ending up in the friend and roommate zone or total disconnected resentment because we didn't know how to resolve conflict.
Right, right. I think this would be so helpful if, especially for people maybe who have seen a pattern of whether it's failed marriages or failed relationships. And I don't normally use the word failed, but when they just break apart and it's just doesn't make any sense, like it's not like
Yes.
there was any abuse or, anything like that. It's just the relationship
Yeah.
just collapses over and over and over again to do this work. And now, Joanna, we are almost out of time. I can't believe how fast these conversations go, but just tell us a little bit about how you work with people, whether
Mhm.
it's individuals or couples. And I realize it might be a slightly different program based on how you're coming in there, but just if you could just share a little bit
Yeah.
about what this would look like if somebody's going, I really want to find out more about this.
Yeah, absolutely. So I totally work with both singles and couples. And interestingly enough, the singles teach the couples and the couples teach the singles. We actually do a lot of work together. Um, and men, women, all gender spectrum, all individuals. And we have a combination. I have some exclusively private clients, and we have retreats and we have programs. So it's really, I love to work in an immersive kind of way, a very experiential way, because we can understand all this stuff here,
Right.
but living it and breathing it is where our lives change and where I like to say, where the ecstatic experiences of life and love making all come into being through the embodiment. So there's a variety of ways for people to dive headfirst in or to take baby steps in the process.
Wonderful. Now, Joanna, can you please share with us your website so that
Yes.
people can feel comfortable in reaching out? And you have also offered a gift for everybody. Can you just share a little bit about that? And I will make sure all of that gets in the show notes.
Beautiful. Absolutely. So the website is ecstaticintimacy.com. And the free gift is our Ecstatic Intimacy Jumpstart Kit. And there is actually a singles version and a coupled version of that Jumpstart Kit, but it really takes you through a variety of the different aspects of what we've been talking about here and understanding this path of love and the masculine feminine dimensions of it.
Fantastic. Joanna, thank you. That is so generous of you. And I'm going to, like I said, everything's going to be in the show notes. So just go there, click on the link, check out what Joanna's got offered because I think it's an amazing thing for anybody at any age to just really come back to themselves so they can be fully present in their relationship. That is such a positive thing to do. So,
Mhm.
Joanna, thanks for being on this episode of Spotlight on the Divorce Expert. Can't even remember the name of my own show there. And for
Thank you,
sharing
Marty.
your expertise and wisdom. It was really fantastic.
I so enjoy it with you. Thank you.
And don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment on this video because we would love to hear your thoughts.